There are things money can buy, and things even the richest man in the world can't escape, like the moment of truth. And on that day, it came screaming through the hallways of a hospital. "Save my mom, she's dying!" It was a girl, small, thin, dirty clothes, skin worn out by a life that had been cruel far too early, but her eyes, those eyes cut deeper than any surgeon's scalpel. Her voice echoed through the most expensive private hospital in the city. Rich folks recoiling, nurses whispering, security heading toward the commotion, and in the middle of it all, him, Henrique, well-combed grey hair, tailored suit, cold eyes of someone who's seen too much of life to be shaken by anything. But right then, in that instant, he froze. The man who built empires with a firm voice and a heavy pen stood still, pale, eyes wide, like he'd seen a ghost, or worse, a memory. "Dear God, please!" the girl kept pleading. They say they save everyone here." That's when Henrique's eyes filled with tears, but he didn't cry. He swallowed hard, like someone recognizing something they've spent a lifetime trying to forget. A doctor appeared in a rush, followed by 2 nurses. "Who's responsible for her? This girl can't be here." Henrique slowly raised his hand. "I am." Silence. Even the onlookers seemed to stop breathing. "She's my granddaughter," he said, voice trembling. And the whole hospital seemed to collapse from the inside, but what no one there knew was that the girl was more than a lost granddaughter. She carried a secret that could bring down everything Henrique had built, brick by brick, and that was the beginning of the true collapse of an empire. Her name was Rosa, but she had no soft petals, no visible thorns, just skin and bone, with a gaze that said more than most grown-ups could ever scream. Rosa showed up at the hospital out of nowhere, with her unconscious mother in her arms and a shattered soul. And when Enrique said he was her grandfather, no one could tell if it was a miracle, a lie, or an old tragedy rising from the grave. "She's really your granddaughter?" whispered the oldest nurse, clutching the medical chart. Enrique didn't answer. He just stared at the girl, like someone trying to connect the dots between past and present, and realizing the path had been burned along the way. Rosa sat on the cold floor of the reception, wearing torn shorts and hugging a tattered backpack. "My mum's name is Clara. She stopped breathing on the bus. She was coming to work. She didn't want to come here, but I brought her." And in that moment, Henrique's memory collapsed like an avalanche. Clara, the daughter he rejected, the woman he kicked out of the house over 20 years ago, pregnant alone, because of a choice he never had the courage to revisit. Clara was the stain he hid from the world, and now she was there, between life and death, carried in the arms of a granddaughter he never knew existed. The doctor returned. "We're stabilizing her, but she lost a lot of blood. Miss Clara is in critical condition." Enrique turned to Rosa. "Do you know who I am?" She hesitated. "My mom said my grandfather was an important man, that he didn't want anything to do with us." "And you still came looking for me?" "No, I came looking for a hospital, and you just happened to be here." In that moment, Enrique felt the hardest blow of all. He wasn't the hero of the story. It was chance, desperation. The girl hadn't come seeking forgiveness or family, just help, and that hurt more than any tainted legacy. But what he still didn't know was that Clara had hidden a secret all these years, a secret that could change the very blood running through that family, and the time to find out was running out. Enrique paced back and forth in the ICU hallway, like someone trying to escape something already living inside their chest. The name Clara echoed in each step. It was like the white tiles of the hospital knew more than he did. And they did, because memory has no walls, no locks. When it decides to break free, it invades everything. Rosa sat on the plastic bench, hugging her backpack. She didn't cry, but her eyes were the kind that carried too many questions and too few answers. "Is she going to die?" she asked suddenly. Enrique stopped, took a deep breath. "We don't say that about our mother, but it's true. She has no one, just me. And now, maybe even I can't help anymore." The words hit the millionaire like a punch to the gut. Enrique had always believed money could fix everything, but here it fixed nothing. Not lost time, not a rejected daughter, not an unknown granddaughter. Suddenly, a name slipped from the girl's mouth, almost in a whisper. "Davi?" Enrique turned. "Who?" "My dad. That's the name she always said, but she never explained it well. Just said he disappeared, and that it was my grandfather's fault." Enrique's mouth went dry. Davi. That name he knew, all too well. It was the name of the only man Clara ever loved, and also the man Enrique swore to destroy. "There's no such person," he said coldly. "Yes, there is. I saw a photo. A guy with a guitar and a torn shirt. My mom looked at that photo like it was a prayer." Enrique swallowed his rage. Davi was a street musician, a nobody in his opinion, but to Clara he was everything. It was because of that love that she was cast out. And from what Rosa had just said, that buried past still had very live roots. Just then, the ICU door opened slowly. The doctor appeared, face tense. "Mr. Enrique, we need to talk." The hallway turned into a graveyard of silence. And there, between a forgotten name and a buried truth, the biggest revelation was still to come. "Oh, ChatGPT, Dis. She's alive, but just barely," said the doctor, her voice neither hurried nor relieved. Enrique couldn't speak. He just nodded, with the look of someone physically present but whose soul was trapped in the past. "We need to know if the patient has any medical history. The daughter is a minor. Are you really a relative?" Enrique hesitated. He felt the weight of the question like a verdict. "I'm her father," he answered in a thin voice, "and I'm this girl's grandfather." The doctor looked at him as if evaluating more than just test results. "Then you need to see this." She pulled a yellowed envelope from her coat pocket. "This was inside the patient's bag. It's a letter, addressed to you." Enrique took the envelope with trembling hands. The paper was stained with age, as if the past itself had cried over it. His name written in blue pen, Enrique Amaral. Rosa stepped closer. "Did my mom write it?" Enrique didn't answer. He just sat down on the bench, opened the envelope carefully, and began to read. "Dad, if you're reading this, something must have happened. Maybe you'll never know everything I went through. Maybe you won't even want to. But I'm writing anyway, because I need my daughter to have a chance at being recognized. Her name is Rosa. And yes, she is your granddaughter, and there's more. She's not just my daughter, she's his daughter too. The man you hated, but who truly loved me. Davy is dead, Dad. He died 5 years ago. Died singing on the street, trying to raise money to buy our daughter's medicine. He died the way he lived, ignored by the world, and mostly by you." Enrique felt his throat tighten. Rosa looked at him, confused, but in that worn-out piece of paper lay the story he had spent decades trying to erase. And little did he know, that was just the first part of the truth. The letter fell from Enrique's lap as if it weighed a ton. His eyes were red but still dry. The kind of tears that don't fall, because pride holds them back. Rosa picked up the paper gently. "Did you read it all?" Enrique nodded slowly. "I read enough." She was quiet for a while, then asked, "Do you believe her?" "She's my daughter," he said, almost as a confession. "And even if I wanted not to believe, some things can't be undone." In the room next door, Clara breathed through machines. The beeping of the heart monitor seemed to mark every beat of Enrique's regret. The doctor returned. "We'll need the legal guardian of the girl to sign the monitoring paperwork. Can you take temporary custody?" Enrique looked at Rosa. She looked away. "Do you have any other relatives?" the doctor asked the girl. "Just her," Rosa replied. "Just my mom." Enrique sighed. "I'll sign." The paperwork arrived. Signature here, signature there. But when the doctor asked for the girl's birth certificate, that's when the real bomb dropped. "Mr. Enrique, the father's name has been crossed out, literally, with black marker. It's illegible. Looks like someone wanted to erase it." Enrique took the document, and there it was. The father's name field was covered by a shaky smudge, as if the ink had been mixed with tears and anger. "Did my mum do that?" Rosa asked. Enrique answered quietly, "No, someone at the registry office did. This isn't pen ink. It's permanent marker. This is sabotage." The doctor looked puzzled. "What do you mean, sabotage?" Enrique stood up, serious. "I know the system, and I know who might have done this. And if it's who I'm thinking..." The past wasn't just returning. It was screaming, and what was coming now was more dangerous than he ever imagined. The hospital corridor seemed quieter than before, but it was the kind of silence that weighs heavy, that screams inside. Enrique sat on the bench outside the ICU, and for the first time in years, lowered his head. Rosa stood, clutching her backpack like a shield. She looked at that man who, just hours ago, was nothing but a bitter legend from her mother's past. Now, he was real, flesh, bone, and guilt. "Why did you hate my dad so much?" she asked bluntly. Enrique took a while to respond. "Because he challenged me, made me lose control of the only thing I thought was still mine, your mother." Rosa didn't understand. "But love isn't control." Enrique looked at her. "No, but pride is," he told her. "Everything. That Davy was just a simple boy who showed up playing guitar at an elite party, that Clara fell for him and that was the beginning of the end, that he tried to buy Davy's silence with money, and when that didn't work, he had his name erased from everything. She called me Dad one last time before she left home," Enrique said, voice cracking, "and after that, never again." That's when Rosa, for the first time, sat beside him, still wary, still wounded. But she sat. "My mom always said you were tough but not evil, just didn't know how to be a father." Enrique took a deep breath. "And now, I don't know how to be a grandfather either." "You can start by trying," the girl replied. Silence. But this time it wasn't a screaming silence, it was one that waited. Enrique looked up, and for the first time he looked at Rosa with a tenderness buried deep in his chest. "Your mother is still alive. And if she wakes up, maybe she'll call me Dad again." Rosa smiled, slightly, but she smiled. Enrique's phone buzzed. A message, unknown number. "If you thought the past was dead, it's because you haven't heard the rest of the story." Enrique turned pale and realized that Clara wasn't the only one hiding secrets. "Oh, ChatGPT dice..." Enrique stared at the phone as if it were a ticking bomb. The anonymous message still lit up the screen. But what truly trembled was his memory. That phrase, "the rest of the story," stirred something he swore was buried. Rosa, sitting beside him, noticed his face go pale. "What's wrong?" Enrique didn't answer. He simply hit the call button for the unknown number. It rang once, twice, 3 times. Then someone picked up. A voice, low, hoarse, but alive. "Enrique." He froze. "Who is this?" "You already know." Impossible. That voice couldn't exist anymore. Because it belonged to a man who, according to Clara, had been dead for 5 years. "Davy?" Enrique whispered, the name tasting like blood. "She lied to you, Enrique. She lied to everyone. And now, it's time to tell the truth." Enrique shot to his feet, leaving Rosa confused. He walked to the end of the hallway as if the phone weighed 1,000 pounds. "You're not dead?" "Almost. But the only ones who really die are the ones we forget. And now, too many people want to remember." "But why now?" Enrique snapped, caught between fear and fury. "Because my daughter's in danger, and there are more people involved in this than you realize. Powerful people. People who don't want certain truths coming to light." Enrique took a deep breath. "You're saying Clara didn't just lie to me, but that she's protecting someone. She kept quiet to protect Rosa, but now she can't anymore." The call ended. Enrique stood there, stunned, as the world seemed to spin more slowly around him. Davy was alive, and Clara was hiding something even deeper than abandonment. When he returned to the bench, Rosa looked up at him, concerned. "Are you okay?" Enrique lied. "I'm fine." But inside, he knew the real problem wasn't what had already happened. It was what was still coming. The next morning, Enrique arrived at the hospital earlier than usual. His face was tired, his beard unshaved, and his mind trapped in the voice he'd heard the night before. Davy was alive, and what that meant, he still didn't have the courage to fully face. Rosa slept on the hallway bench, her head against the wall, wrapped in an emergency blanket a nurse had given her. She looked far too fragile for the weight she carried. The doctor approached quietly. "Miss Clara has shown slight improvement. She's still sedated, but her vital signs have stabilized. If it continues like this, she may wake up in a few hours." Enrique nodded. "Thank you." Before he could sit down, a security guard approached, holding a small cardboard box. This was left at the front desk. No sender, just your name written by hand. Enrique took the box with suspicion. There was nothing on it but a handwritten label. "For Enrique Amaral, before it's too late." He opened it carefully. Inside were 3 items: a flash drive, an old photo, and a folded document stained with what looked like dried blood. The photo was of Clara and Davy, young, smiling in a modest park. On the back, a dedication: "Even without the world, we have each other." It was Clara's handwriting. The document was worse, much worse. It was a medical report, signed by a doctor from an illegal clinic, an abortion. Enrique's eyes widened. The date was 23 years ago. Patient name, Clara Amaral. But Rosa was 11. The math didn't add up. And then came the real shock. The signature at the bottom wasn't Clara's. It had been forged, and right beside it, the stamp of the very same legal firm that worked for Enrique's company, the same firm he used to silence scandals. His stomach turned. He grabbed the flash drive, plugged it into the hospital's laptop. A video began to play. It was Davy. "If you're watching this, it means you followed the clues. And Clara gave you some chance to come back. I recorded this when I decided to disappear, when I realized that if I stayed, she would die. And Rosa wouldn't even be born." Enrique's hands trembled. The video cut to black. Then a new voice. A woman. "My name is Carolina. I worked at the registry office where everything was manipulated." Enrique froze. The truth was coming like an avalanche, and there was no running from it anymore. "Oh, ChatGPT, Dis." The woman's voice was calm, but you could hear the weight in it, the kind that only comes from carrying secrets too long. "I was just a registry clerk. Invisible. That's what they called people like me. Just an employee. But I saw, I stamped, I filed, and afterward, I cried." The screen showed a middle-aged woman with her hair in a bun, her face lined with guilt and time. Carolina. She sat in front of an old webcam, inside a modest room. Behind her, stacks of dusty files. Enrique Amaral ordered the father's name on Rosa's birth certificate to be erased. He had it changed before the girl was even born. He knew Clara was pregnant, and he wanted every trace of Davy gone, to protect his reputation, his business deals. But I kept copies, not out of courage, out of fear. Fear that one day I'd have to defend myself. Enrique closed his eyes. It felt like watching his own biography being written in shame. Rosa walked into the room quietly, her eyes still puffy from sleep. "What are you watching?" He paused the video. "Nothing a girl your age needs to see right now." But she insisted. "It's about me, isn't it?" Enrique looked at her, and for the first time he didn't just see Clara's features, but Davy's eyes. Those same eyes that once dared to dream of a love Enrique tried to erase. "It's about the truth," he said, "one that's been buried for years." Rosa stepped closer and, without a word, pressed play. Carolina's voice returned. "Clara never lied, she fought, and she was silenced. But now, justice begins. Enrique, you have a choice. Hide behind your golden walls, or step down and ask for forgiveness for real." Enrique said nothing, but inside, something cracked open. Because even a heart of stone, once it breaks, lets light in. Enrique spent the night at the hospital. Not even the hard bench hurt more than what was happening inside him. It felt like every layer he'd built, pride, status, power, was dissolving quietly. Rosa slept on the small couch, curled up, head resting on a folded shirt, her face peaceful despite everything. Enrique's phone rang. His lawyer. Panicked, "Enrique, have you seen what's happening online? Someone leaked the video. That woman, Carolina. It's everywhere. Reporters are at the building." Enrique didn't move. "Let them knock." "What do you mean? This could ruin your reputation." "Maybe it needs to be ruined." Silence on the line. Then the call dropped. Enrique stood and walked to the window, staring at the sunrise between the buildings. The sky didn't know what was happening down below, but it lit up anyway. Around noon, Clara woke up. Her eyes opened slowly, as if coming out of a long and painful dream. When the doctor informed them, Enrique and Rosa walked into the room together. Clara looked at them with effort, squinting at the light. "Sweetheart," she whispered. Rosa rushed to the bed, gripping her mother's hand. She cried silently. Enrique stood frozen. Then he stepped forward, slow. "Clara, forgive me." Her eyes welled with tears, not from resentment, but from everything she'd kept inside for 20 years. "You destroyed my life, Dad, but you gave me this girl, and she saved me." Enrique swallowed hard. "And now, it's my turn to try and save you." The doctor returned, holding a file. "We need the legal guardian's signature to begin Clara's full treatment. Can it be you, Mr. Enrique?" He looked at his daughter, then at his granddaughter, and he signed, not as a millionaire, but as a father, as a grandfather, as a man who, at last, understood what it means to rebuild. Clara cried quietly. That silent kind of cry that doesn't make a sound but carries 20 years of unsaid words. Enrique stood by her, holding her hand like it was the first time. And maybe it was. Rosa watched with eyes far too wise for her age. Like she knew she was witnessing something much bigger than herself, a family being stitched back together from shards. Enrique took a deep breath. "I can't erase what I did, but I can try to fix it." Clara turned toward him, still weak. "Do you think one apology heals everything you broke?" "No," he replied, "but maybe. The things left unsaid are the ones that hurt us the most." The silence that followed was thick, almost solid. Then Clara, with effort, whispered, "Did you know I almost came back?" Enrique looked surprised. "Back then, when I found out I was pregnant, I stood in front of your company, holding an envelope. It had Rosa's ultrasound inside. I was going to show you. I wanted to give you another chance." "Why didn't you come in?" he asked. "Because you walked out of the building, flanked by 2 bodyguards, and passed right by me like I was invisible." Enrique closed his eyes. He remembered that day. He was in a rush, headed to a meeting, contracts to sign, and he didn't see her, or didn't want to. "I see you now," he said, "and I don't want to look away again." Rosa held both their hands. "If you two still can't forgive each other, I forgive you." It was the child who brought the healing. The same girl who carried her mother in her arms, who braved the hospital's coldness, who faced an unknown grandfather, and united the pieces. That afternoon, Enrique called his lawyer and gave the order. "I want everything in my name transferred to the Rosa de Luz Institute, a foundation for abandoned children, in my granddaughter's name." The lawyer stammered, "But that's everything." Enrique smiled. "It's all I truly have left." And it was in that moment that he discovered a true legacy isn't what you build, it's what you repair. Outside the hospital, the sun rose timidly behind grey clouds, matching the weight in Enrique's chest. He no longer wore suits. The polished leather shoes were gone. So was the executive briefcase. Now he carried a grocery bag with coffee, cookies, and an old notebook where he wrote down all the things he had never dared to say out loud. The hospital staff now knew his name, but not as Dr. Enrique Amaral, CEO of A&V Financial Group, just Mr. Enrique, the man with the strong granddaughter, the grandfather who stayed. Clara remained in fragile condition, but she was awake and aware. Sometimes they talked. Other times she slept for hours. Her hospitalization would be long, and Rosa refused to leave her side. She slept at the hospital, wrapped in borrowed blankets, clutching a stuffed bear she'd found in the donation box. Enrique spent his mornings reading silently beside his daughter. Afternoons, helping Rosa catch up on schoolwork. And at night, he wrote letters, some addressed to Clara, others to himself. One grey morning, a hospital employee approached holding an envelope. This was dropped off at reception. No name, no return address. They just said, "It's for him." Henrique took the envelope. It was heavy. Inside, he found a cassette tape and a folded piece of paper. On the paper, handwritten, "Now you know, but you still haven't heard everything." His heart pounded. A cassette tape, a relic from another era. But he recognized it. That kind of recording had Davi's signature all over it. The same Davi who, according to Clara, had died, but now seemed to be speaking from beyond, or worse, from a part of the past Henrique had never faced. With help from a hospital technician, he found an old cassette player, inserted the tape, pressed play, static, then a voice. "Henrique, if you're listening to this, you've found the trail. And Clara must have let you in, just a little. I recorded this the night I chose to disappear, when I realized that if I stayed, she would die, and Rosa wouldn't even be born." Henrique's knees weakened. He sat down. Davi's voice continued, calm and clear. "You think you took everything from me, but the truth is, the world around you was already rotten. You just helped push it off the cliff. That foundation you funded, it was laundering money for the powerful. Clara found out. She believed she could fix it from the inside. But it was too late. I didn't run out of fear. I ran because I saw her name on a list of people marked to disappear. And Rosa was still in her womb. You tried to destroy my life, Henrique. But in the end, I was the one who saved your daughters." Henrique clenched his eyes shut, trying to hold back the tears. "I left this tape with someone you probably don't remember, the secretary from the registry office. She saw everything. She kept everything. Now you know what you did. But what you choose to do with it, that's on you. Clara deserves to know she wasn't abandoned, and Rosa deserves to grow up without the weight of your lies. If you want to find me, I'm alive. But I'll only come back if she wants me to. If you want me to." The tape clicked. Only static remained. Henrique sat frozen, his head lowered, his eyes red, and finally, the tears came. But this time, not out of shame, not from guilt. They came from freedom. That same afternoon, he went to the cemetery, to the symbolic grave where they'd buried Davi's memory. He brought simple flowers and a note. "You stepped off the stage because I pushed you, but now, if you want to return, the door is open, and the spotlight is yours again." For the first time in decades, Henrique stepped away from the stage, but not to run, to rebuild. Sunlight filtered into room 203, gentle and warm. Clara blinked slowly, waking from a dream that had lasted too long and hurt too much. Outside, the city buzzed on as usual, but in that room, time had stopped. Every second seemed to count double. Henrique sat in a plastic chair, a warm coffee in hand, watching his daughter in silence, as if seeing a flower bloom after years of being buried in cement. And Rosa slept on her stomach, a coloring book open on her lap, pencils scattered on the floor. The doctor entered with a faint smile, holding a clipboard. "Miss Clara, we have good news. The infection is under control. You've responded well to treatment. If things keep going this way, you'll be going home soon." Clara smiled, weak but genuine. Rosa woke with the noise and ran straight to the bed, holding her mother's hand. "Are you okay? Are you in pain?" Clara stroked her daughter's hair. "The pain's different now, but this one I can handle." Henrique approached slowly. He looked tired, but something in his eyes had changed. There was humility now. "I went to the cemetery yesterday, to Davy's grave." Clara tensed. "Why?" "Because he spoke to me." Her eyes widened. Henrique held out the tape and the handwritten note. Clara recognized them instantly. Her hands trembled. He recorded this for me, before he disappeared. I never had the courage to listen." Henrique nodded. "I listened. He didn't run out of cowardice. He ran out of love, out of fear of what they would do to you, to Rosa." The room fell into a sacred silence, the kind that heals where words fail. He said he'd come back, Clara whispered, but I thought that was just a fantasy. It's not anymore, Henrique said. He made it clear he'll return if you want him to. Rosa, quiet and attentive like always, asked, "Can I meet him?" Clara smiled through teary eyes. "Yes, sweetheart, you can, and you will." She reached for her phone. There was a number saved under the letter D. It had never been called, never deleted, like a locket of impossible hope. Her thumb hesitated, then tapped. "One ring, 2, 3, he answered. "Clara?" His voice sounded far away, but alive. Clara closed her eyes. Tears streamed down her cheeks. "It's me." On the other end, a soft breath. "I'm ready. I'm alive. And if you let me, I'm coming home." Clara looked at Rosa. "She wants to meet you. Then I'll be there tomorrow." Henrique didn't say a word, just stared out the window. The world outside looked the same, but he knew, deep down, his world never would be again. Later, Rosa was drawing. A plain white sheet covered in doodles. A small house, 3 windows, and 4 people smiling. A woman with her hair up, a man with a guitar, a child in between, and an older man beside them. Henrique leaned over. "Who's that?" She answered without looking up. "My family. And this guy here with the serious face but good heart?" She giggled. "That's Grandpa. He was late, but he made it." Henrique smiled, trying to hide a tear. He sat beside her. "You draw beautifully. I just draw what I see. And now I see us." That night, while Clara slept with her hand intertwined with Rosa's, and Henrique dozed off beside them, Rosa looked up at the ceiling and smiled, a different kind of smile. A full one of belonging, one of peace, one that meant she finally had a place in the world. The morning was cold, the kind that seeps through your skin and settles deep in your bones. But the warmth in Clara's chest was different. It didn't come from outside. It came from something else, something old, something that had finally found its way home. Rosa was getting ready with all the excitement in the world. Clean sneakers, hair tied neatly, the same dress the nurse had given her on that first night. "We're meeting him today, right?" she asked. Clara smiled. "Yes, sweetheart, we are." Henrique stood by the window sipping coffee. He didn't say much. His heart beat slowly, but each beat felt like it carried years of weight. At 10:45 a.m., the hospital intercom buzzed. "Mr. Henrique Amaral, there's a man downstairs asking to come up. Says his name is David." Henrique turned to Clara. She gave a single nod. "Let him up." The elevator took an eternity. The metallic clang of the doors opening sounded like thunder, and then he appeared. Davy, thinner, greyer, his beard a bit overgrown, eyes sunken from years of silence and exile. But his smile, that smile hadn't changed. It was still the smile of someone who faced pain with poetry. Henrique was the first to approach. Slowly he held out his hand. "You've got more courage than I ever had." Davy shook it firmly. "I just had more time to learn." Clara cried in silence, Rosa clinging tightly to her arm. Davy knelt before the girl. "Hi, Rosa." She looked at him, curious. "Are you really my dad?" He pulled a delicate paper flower from his pocket. Folded, old. "Your mom taught me how to make these. I saved one, just for you." She took it, eyes wide with wonder. "Then it's true." Davy smiled. "It is. We're real." Clara stepped down from the hospital bed, weak but determined. She embraced Davy, fiercely, desperately. The kind of hug that transcended time, betrayal, silence. The kind that said, "I never stopped waiting." Henrique watched from the side, and for the first time in a long time, he felt peace, real peace, the kind that doesn't come from wealth, but from surrender. And then Rosa tugged at all their hands. "Now that everyone's here, can I show you my drawing?" She held up the picture, the 4 of them, Clara, Davy, Henrique, and herself, all smiling, holding hands. Behind them, the hospital, and in the sky, a giant sun. "This is us leaving here. Going home." Davy's eyes filled with tears. "Is that what you want?" "I do, but only if we all go together." Henrique picked her up gently. "Then let's go, because some things time tries to steal, but love always brings back. And on that cold morning, the season turned to spring. The day of Clara's discharge arrived like a sunrise, slowly but beautifully. Clara, still fragile, walked with a walker. Davy carried her bag in one hand and Rosa's hand in the other. Enrique walked behind them, not as a leader, but as someone who finally understood the power of walking with. The entire hospital paused to watch them go. Nurses who'd seen Clara on the edge of death. Doctors who once doubted she'd make it. Even the security guard who had nearly removed Rosa that first day. All stood still, witnessing the week's most improbable miracle. A family, fractured, worn, incomplete, walking out whole. At the front desk, Rosa stopped and left a note. "Thank you for not sending my mom away. Now she gets to live." Enrique helped Clara into the car. A simple one. No driver, no blacked-out windows, just them. He would drive. In the back seat, Rosa looked out the window, eyes wide. The city looked new, and maybe it was. "Where are we going?" she asked. Enrique met her eyes in the rearview mirror. "Home. But whose home? Yours, Mommy's, or Daddy's?" Clara chuckled softly, her voice still faint. "Ours, baby, ours." And right there, in that moving car, a place that had never existed was born. A home. Enrique sold off the last of his company's holdings. The foundation Rosa de Luz was officially established. The building that once housed his financial empire became a haven for single mothers, abandoned children, and teens like the Clara of 20 years ago. Davy started teaching music on weekends. Clara became a counselor at the hospital where she'd almost died. And Rosa wrote. She wrote everything, every memory, every moment they had survived. On the final page of her notebook, she penned a sentence. "My mom almost died. My dad almost disappeared. My grandpa almost lost us. But love arrived just in time." Enrique read those words every night before bed, and he smiled. Because in the end, there are things money can't buy. But a sincere heart, a heart willing to repair, can restore them. Rosa became a symbol of hope. Clara of new beginnings, Davy of bravery, and Enrique. Enrique became exactly what he once feared most, human. So, what did you think of that story, huh? Drop a comment below, hit that like button to help out the channel, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss more powerful stories like this one. Until next time, from your Grandpa Rich.